If social media has ever made you feel less than enough, good. Because that uncomfortable feeling, that's not weakness, it's a signal. A signal that you're ready to stop scrolling through everyone else's highlight reel and start showing up for your own real life. Toxicity online isn't your enemy, it's your training ground. And today, I'll show you how to turn every negative swipe, comment, and algorithm into the secret weapon you never knew you had. Most of us don't even realize when it starts. You open your phone, maybe just to check a notification or reply to a message. But suddenly, you're not just looking, you're comparing. Someone's vacation, someone's glow up, someone's success story carefully edited and filtered. And even if you're doing well in life, a quiet voice creeps in, why am I not there yet? That's the trap. And here's the truth most people don't talk about. The moment you become aware of that trap, that's the moment you take back your power. See, the first step to unlocking your true potential isn't about changing your habits overnight. It's not deleting every app or isolating yourself from the world. It starts way before that. It starts with awareness, with pausing long enough to recognize, hey, this is making me feel something, and not in a good way. Because the danger of social media toxicity isn't just in the content. It's in how subtly it gets under your skin, how it reshapes what you think you should be, what you should have, and even how you should feel. And when you're unaware, that toxic pressure becomes your default environment. And you can't grow in an environment that suffocates you. But when you wake up to it, when you truly see it for what it is, everything shifts. Suddenly, that perfect looking post isn't intimidating, it's just an image. That comment that once wrecked your mood, it's just a reflection of someone else's hurt. That endless scrolling, you realize it's been numbing you instead of feeding you. The awareness of how social media affects your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. That is your first and greatest power move. Not reacting, not spiraling, just noticing. Because in noticing, you break the spell. You create space between the trigger and your response. And in that space lies your potential. Now let's get real. It's easy to tell ourselves, it doesn't affect me, or I just use it for fun. But deep down, you know when something has started to own your peace. You know when you're posting for connection, and when you're posting for validation. You know when you're watching to be inspired, and when you're watching to escape. That honesty with yourself, that's not weakness. That's strength. That's leadership. You can't lead your life if you're lying to yourself about what's leading you. And I know it's not easy. Because once you become aware, you can't unsee it. You'll start to notice how your mood dips after scrolling, how your goals feel smaller after seeing someone else's highlight reel, how your confidence starts to depend on the reactions of people who don't even know you. But that discomfort, that's good. That means you're waking up. That means you're no longer just reacting to the world around you. You're starting to respond to the world within you. Awareness is the first step, but it's also the most powerful one. Because once you're aware, you get to choose. You get to choose who you follow, what you consume, when you engage, and when you walk away. You stop being the product of the feed. And you start becoming the creator of your life. Here's something I want you to carry with you. You don't have to hate social media. You just have to stop letting it hate you. Stop letting it quietly convince you that you're behind. Stop letting it define success on your behalf. Stop letting it speak louder than your own intuition. Once you're aware of the impact, you get to reclaim the narrative. You get to rebuild your mindset. You get to set boundaries not out of fear, but out of clarity. And that clarity, that's where potential lives. That's where your energy returns. That's where you begin to show up, focused, intentional, and unshaken by what doesn't matter. Social media isn't going anywhere. But neither is your power, unless you give it away. So the next time you find yourself scrolling, stop, just for a second, not to shame yourself, not to panic. Just to ask, is this feeding me or draining me? And whatever the answer is, respond accordingly. Because your life doesn't need more filters. It needs more truth, and awareness is where that truth begins. You ever notice how the things that upset us the most online tend to say more about us than the post, the person, or the comment? Someone shares an opinion, and suddenly you're angry. A reel shows someone achieving what you've been working toward, and jealousy creeps in. A stranger drops a careless comment, and it ruins your whole day. And the question becomes, why? Why does it hit so hard? The truth is, toxicity online isn't always just noise. Sometimes it's a mirror, a reflection of parts of ourselves that we haven't fully acknowledged or healed. And I'm not saying the hate, the drama, or the negativity is right or acceptable. Not at all. But I am saying that the way we respond to it reveals something deeper than the content itself. It's easy to blame the internet. It's easy to say social media is toxic and move on. But that doesn't change you. That doesn't grow you. What does? Looking in the mirror, asking yourself, why did that get to me? And not in a judgmental way, but in a curious, honest, growth-minded way. Because what triggers you teaches you. If someone's success makes you feel small, it's not about them. It's about a belief inside you that says you're not enough. If a comment cuts deep, maybe it touched a wound that hasn't fully healed yet. If you feel anxious after scrolling, maybe it's because you've been measuring your life against a scoreboard that isn't even real. This is where real growth begins. When you stop defending your reactions and start decoding them. When you stop making everything external and start taking it internal. And I get it. It's not always comfortable. It's a lot easier to just block someone or close the app and pretend it doesn't bother you. But you don't grow by avoiding discomfort. You grow by understanding it. Imagine this: every time something online bothers you, you pause, not to react, but to reflect. What's this revealing about me? What fear, what insecurity, what unmet need is being exposed? That's not weakness. That's strength. That's emotional leadership. That's you stepping into a higher version of yourself, one choice at a time. And look, not everything toxic online is some deep life lesson. Sometimes people are just being cruel, projecting their pain, or spreading negativity because they haven't found peace within themselves. But even then, you get to decide how you interpret it. You get to choose whether it controls your day or teaches you how unshakable you've become. Think of it like this: every time you get triggered, it's like finding a crack in the foundation of your mindset. And instead of ignoring it, you go in and repair it. Stronger, smarter, wiser. So now, when those same things show up again, they don't shake you anymore, because you've already done the work. You've reinforced the foundation. Toxicity doesn't have to be the thing that holds you back. It can be the very thing that sharpens your awareness, strengthens your identity, and reminds you of the work you're still meant to do internally. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. about using every uncomfortable moment as fuel to build your emotional muscle. So when someone mocks your progress, don't shrink. Learn. When a post makes you feel less, then don't spiral. Reflect. When negativity shows up at your doorstep, don't invite it in, but don't run from it either. Glance in the mirror it's holding up and ask, what's this showing me about myself? Because if you do that consistently, if you train yourself to see the lesson in the noise, you'll start transforming reactions into revelations. And over time, those little insights become big breakthroughs. You stop living at the mercy of the algorithm, and you start living with intention, with clarity, with purpose. That's the real power, not avoiding the toxicity, but outgrowing it. Not running from the mirror, but using it to fix what's broken and reinforce what's already strong. Let the noise reveal where your silence needs to speak. Have you ever noticed how loud the world gets when you don't take a moment to be quiet? The constant pings, the scrolling, the updates, the pressure to stay visible, relevant, liked. It's like you're always on, even when your mind is begging for a pause. But here's the thing, sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself isn't to do more or post more or react faster. Sometimes the real breakthrough comes when you pull back, get quiet, and actually listen, not to them, but to you. Detox isn't about being dramatic. It's not about deleting every app or making an announcement that you're taking a break. No, it's deeper than that. It's about reclaiming your mental space so that you can hear yourself think again. Because here's the truth, when you're constantly plugged into other people's noise, you lose touch with your own voice. You start living reactively instead of intentionally. You follow trends instead of values. You move fast but never feel fulfilled. It's wild, isn't it? We've got more information than ever, more access, more connection, and yet so many people feel more lost, more anxious, more unsure of who they are. And it's not because they're weak. It's because their minds are crowded. They're consuming so much that they've forgotten how to create. They've heard so many opinions that they can't even recognize their own anymore. And that's why a detox, even a small one, can be life-changing. Because in that space, when the notifications stop, when the feed goes silent, you begin to notice things. You notice the thoughts that surface without distraction. You notice how your body feels without constant tension. You notice what you actually want, what actually matters, and what's just noise you've mistaken for truth. Most people are scared of silence because it forces them to face what they've been avoiding. But that's silence. That's where clarity lives. That's where you reconnect with the part of you that isn't swayed by likes, shares, or outside validation. And when you find that voice, your voice, you begin to lead your life from a place of confidence, not comparison. Now, this doesn't mean social media is evil or that you can't ever enjoy it. But if you're always in it, if your identity starts getting shaped by it, you slowly drift away from who you actually are. And that disconnection, that's what makes people feel stuck, confused, or even like they're falling behind. When you detox, you start noticing how much of your energy was going into things that don't build you. The mindless scrolling, the overthinking your captions, the urge to check if that person viewed your story. All of that drains your power little by little. But when you remove the drain, even temporarily, your energy begins to return. Your creativity sparks. Your focus sharpens. Your peace expands. You stop trying to prove, and you start trying to be. That's where you find direction again. Not in more input, but in more presence. You realize you don't need more advice. You just need to trust what you already know. You realize you don't need more praise. You need more purpose. And purpose doesn't scream at you from a screen. It whispers in the quiet moments when your mind is still enough to hear. And let me tell you something powerful. When you come back after that silence, you come back stronger. You're not reacting out of pressure anymore. You're creating from intention. You're posting because you have something meaningful to say, not because you need to be seen. You're not chasing attention. You're focused on impact. And that shift, that's the difference between living for approval and living in alignment. So even if it's just for a day or an hour or a morning without your phone, give yourself that reset. Because in that reset, you remember who you are. And once you remember, it becomes really hard for anyone or anything to convince you otherwise. Sometimes the quiet isn't empty. It's full of everything you've been needing to hear. You know, we spend so much time curating the perfect post, the right filter, the clever caption. But we rarely stop and think about this. What about curating the people and voices we let in? What about the ones we're giving our energy, our attention, our mindset to every single day? Your social media feed isn't just a collection of photos and videos. It's your environment. And just like your physical environment influences your habits, your thoughts, your health, the same thing happens online. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, comparison, drama, or pressure, don't be surprised when your peace starts to disappear, when your focus fades, when your confidence starts shrinking. Because whether we realize it or not, we become what we consume. But here's the thing, you don't have to stay in that space. You have the power to shape your digital world the same way you shape your real one. You can choose what you let in, who you follow, what you listen to, who speaks into your life. And it's not just about avoiding the toxic stuff. It's about being intentional with what lifts you, challenges you, and aligns with the kind of person you're trying to become. Some of us are walking around discouraged, not because we're broken, but because we're feeding our minds with people and content that have nothing to do with our purpose. And when your environment doesn't match your vision, it creates internal conflict. You want growth, but you're watching chaos. You want peace, but you're following drama. You want confidence, but your feed is full of people who make you feel like you're not enough. And we don't think of it that way because it seems harmless. Oh, I'm just scrolling. But you're not just scrolling. You're soaking it in. You're allowing those messages, those images, those opinions, those standards to enter your mind, your emotions, your identity. And over time, it starts shaping the way you see yourself. So let me ask you something. If your feed was a room, would you sit in it? Would you invite those voices into your home, into your head, into your heart? Would you listen to their advice in real life? Because if the answer is no, then maybe it's time to make a change. Unfollowing someone doesn't mean you hate them. Muting a voice doesn't mean you're weak. Setting a boundary doesn't make you rude. It means you're guarding your peace. It means you're taking responsibility for what you allow to influence you. That's emotional maturity. That's leadership. That's self-respect. You've got to start treating your digital space like it matters. Because it does. The people you follow should remind you of your future, not your flaws. The content you consume should energize you, not drain you. And the conversations you engage in should build you up, not pull you down. Think about this. Would you eat food every day that made you sick just because everyone else is eating it? No. But that's exactly what we do online. We keep feeding ourselves content that poisons our peace just because it's trending or popular or familiar. And then we wonder why we feel tired, anxious, unmotivated. It's time to flip that. Start following people who talk about growth, who inspire action, who reflect your values. Fill your space with voices that challenge you to become better, not bitter. And if something makes you feel less than, if it stirs up insecurity more than insight, let it go. You're not obligated to keep feeding your soul what hurts it. And the best part, once you start making those shifts, even just a few, you'll notice something powerful. Your energy starts returning, your thoughts get clearer, your confidence rises, not because the world changed, but because you did. You made a decision to protect your mind and focus on what truly matters. You wouldn't leave the doors to your house wide open to anything or anyone, right? So why do that with your mind? Your feed is the front door to your focus. Start guarding it like your future depends on it. Because in a very real way, it does. There's this moment we all face, sometimes quietly, sometimes publicly, when someone online throws shade, leaves a rude comment, mocks what we're doing, or just flat out disrespects our effort. And in that moment, it's tempting to shrink, to stop, to second, guess whether what you're doing even matters. But I want you to hear this clearly. Those moments aren't signs to quit, they're invitations to rise. You see, hate is energy, and energy, when redirected, becomes fuel. Every insult, every sarcastic remark, every person who rolled their eyes at your dream, that's raw power. You can either let it crush you or convert it, and when you learn to transmute it, to turn negativity into motivation, you become unstoppable. What if every negative comment became your reminder of how far you've come? What if, instead of spiraling from a rude message, you said, "Good. That means I'm doing something that matters. That means I'm being seen." Because the truth is, no one throws stones at what they don't notice. Hate doesn't find the invisible, it finds the impactful. The ones who are moving, creating, building something real. It's easy to believe that the people throwing that hate have power over you, but they don't. Not unless you hand it to them. Their words are just words until you internalize them. And when you do, you start editing yourself. You start shrinking your presence. You start watering down your purpose just to avoid the heat. But purpose isn't supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to stretch you. And if the price of standing for something is a few critics in the comments, so be it. Let's talk about resilience. Not the kind you post about, but the kind you build through moments like these. Because every time you keep showing up after someone tries to tear you down, you're building muscle. Every time you choose growth over bitterness, you're developing grit. You're learning to stand rooted in who you are, no matter who tries to shake you. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about being cold or pretending that words don't sting. It's okay to feel it. It's okay to be human. But what matters most is what you do with that feeling. Do you let it settle in your spirit and define your worth, or do you let it light a fire under you and push you further? People will talk. People will misunderstand you. Some will judge you without ever knowing your heart, your story, your why, but their misunderstanding is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to keep going, to keep building, to keep choosing your mission over their opinions. And here's the part most people miss: when you use hate as fuel, you don't just grow stronger, you grow clearer, you get more focused, more precise, because nothing exposes your values like being challenged. When someone tests your confidence, you learn how rooted it really is. When someone mocks your dream, you find out how much it means to you. Resistance doesn't just build character. It reveals it. Let me make this personal. Think about the last time someone doubted you, dismissed you, or laughed at your ambition. What did it stir up in you? Anger? Hurt? Maybe? But dig deeper. Wasn't there also a spark? A part of you that thought, watch me. That spark. That's your power. That's the real you underneath the doubt. And that's the voice you need to feed. Not the voice of your critic, but the voice of your calling. And don't just use hate to prove them wrong. Use it to prove yourself right. Because this isn't about revenge or ego. It's about elevation. It's about taking everything that was meant to break you and building with it instead. Brick by brick, comment by comment, step by step, until one day, you're standing on a platform built from every piece of negativity that was meant to bury you. There's a kind of power that only comes from pushing through the noise. From showing up even when it's uncomfortable. From being consistent when it would be easier to quit. That kind of power can't be given. It has to be earned. And every time you rise above the hate, you're earning it. So the next time someone tries to throw you off your path, don't waste your energy fighting back. Channel it. Let it sharpen you. Let it remind you why you started. Let it fuel you so deeply that no amount of negativity can slow your momentum. Because when you learn to turn hate into heat, nothing can put out your fire. There's this moment in every journey where you stop and ask yourself, who am I really doing this for? Is it for the applause, the validation, the approval that shows up in views, likes, shares, comments, or is it something deeper? Because if you're not careful, social media will train you to chase attention instead of purpose. It'll trick you into believing that visibility equals value, that popularity equals progress. But the truth, you don't need the whole world to see you to know you're doing something meaningful. Some of the most powerful, purpose-driven moments in your life will happen when no one's watching. When no one's liking, sharing, or clapping. When the room is silent, the metrics are flat, and you still decide to show up. That's not failure. That's foundation. That's where real identity is built. And it's not easy. Because the way things are set up today, everything nudges you to measure your worth through other people's eyes. If the post doesn't perform well, you wonder if you did something wrong. If your story doesn't get reactions, you wonder if you're boring. If you're not trending, you start to feel invisible. But let me tell you something, the realest version of you was never meant to be put through an algorithm. You were meant to live from a place of purpose, not performance. When you finally detach from the need for validation, it changes everything. You stop asking, will they like this? And start asking, is this true to me? You stop curating your life for optics and start aligning it with what actually matters. And that shift from approval to authenticity is the secret to unlocking a version of yourself that isn't just seen, but is solid, grounded, powerful. Think about it. All this effort we put into being seen, noticed, affirmed, it's exhausting. You burn out trying to keep up an image when what you really need is to build an identity. One that isn't shaken every time the likes drop. One that doesn't rise and fall with the algorithm. One that can stand tall in silence because it knows who it is. And when you start living from that place, you move differently. You create with intention, not insecurity. You speak with clarity, not noise. You lead with conviction, not comparison. Because you're not waiting for the crowd to confirm what you already know. You're walking in it. Quietly. Confidently. I'm not saying attention is bad. I'm not saying influence doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, when you chase purpose first, the right kind of attention follows. The authentic kind, the kind that sticks. The kind that isn't built on trends, but on truth. But when you reverse that, when you chase the numbers first, you'll always feel like you're not enough, because the bar keeps moving. And here's what's even more powerful. When you let go of the need to be seen, you begin to see yourself more clearly. You're no longer bending to what people want. You're becoming who you were meant to be. You get to rediscover the version of you that creates, speaks, builds, not for applause, but because you must. Because it's in you. Because it's real. And that version, that's the one that lasts. So don't let social media convince you that if it's not loud, it's not valuable. Some of the deepest impact happens in quiet rooms. Some of the most authentic breakthroughs happen when no one is watching. Some of the greatest growth happens when you choose to keep going, even when no one claps. That's the difference between performing and living. You weren't created to be liked. You were created to lead, and not the kind of leadership that needs a stage or spotlight, but the kind that's steady, intentional, and deeply rooted in purpose. That's the kind of presence that doesn't fade. That's the kind of influence that doesn't depend on trends. That's the kind of person you're becoming. So ask yourself again, who are you doing this for? Because when the answer becomes, for something bigger than likes, that's when you stop performing for approval and start showing up in your full, unapologetic truth. Because purpose doesn't ask for permission, it just shows up.